All right, y'all, let's get into the preservation of the Bible and break some points down for us, because the beginning is declared from the end, and as we look back, we can start to see forward, okay? So the Bible, first off, all right, Jesus, he's the Word, okay? When he walked, that would be like the beginning of time. That's like the Word, all right? He's the begotten Son, the first Son of God, and he is the second Adam. So he's the second son of man, all right? Okay, so with Jesus and the Bible, all right, we are all the bodies of Christ, okay? And Jesus indwells within us if we are a believer. And we are to seek Jesus if we are a believer, and we seek him through the Word. And that's just not the Bible, all right? Jesus is all words. It's all Word, and all words can be used for good or bad, or they can have a positive note or a negative note or any of that stuff, okay? This is how the Holy Spirit is that so-called Lucifer entity that's been cast as the lightning, because he's giving light to that firstborn, okay? Because the Word can't exist without man speaking it, okay? So it's where one doesn't exist without the other kind of thing, but they exist at the same time or whatever, okay? Because even babies, they start coming on, okay, that's a word, right? So that's where you're born into the flesh, and you're born into this world, and you're given a sin nature. The sin nature is where you think is what's right and wrong. It's taught to you by your parents, and that's where your generational curses are and whatever else, because it takes generations to change to where you be like, man, what my parents did before, that wasn't right. I need to change that or whatever, okay? So it takes time for these things to go, but we need to understand that that we, behold, man has become one of us, that we have eaten from the tree of good and evil, and we are as God, okay? And Jesus, he lives inside of us, all right? And that's going to be the light Jesus or the dark Jesus, because we're basically in this earth, and it's basically just, we're inside the mind of God, right? And we're all parts of his creation and his doing or whatever, and we're all fulfilling his purpose. But what's going on in this world is they want you to think that this world is just random and nobody serves a purpose or whatever, because if they realize, if you know your own power, that they won't have the power anymore. This is where the law comes in, and them trying to teach you what's right from wrong, and what you can believe and what you can't believe, and why they tell you to that pretending is for kids and all these other things. Because when you become a man, you can put away in childish things, and that's how a lot of these miracles and so-called Jesus was happening, because he was tapping into the imagination, the image of God, and tapping into those powers of earth that we're taught as all heebie-jeebies or occultic or whatever nonsense bullshit that people believe these days, okay? Everything is complete opposite of what the people believe, all right? This is where the good shall become bad and the bad shall become good, because the people are being brought down and being taught that all this stuff is right, when you're at the pinnacle of what self-righteousness is. And this is where the collapse comes and all this other stuff, because there is no right and there is no wrong. We, as the sons of God, we can do all things through Jesus, okay? No man can tell me what's right or wrong for me, just like I can't tell what's right or wrong from another man. However, there is a two-edged sword with this, okay? Because you just can't go and live by the beast man. You just can't go and eat all the Cheetos and Fritos and jar cheese or whatever the hell y'all are eating these days, the canned cheese or whatever, okay? You live by the box, you're going to probably be buried in a box, okay? You're going to have your mentality given to you by the box and all those things, which is the ox, the face of that angel. The man, when we write stuff down, when we write about history or our experiences somewhere or whatever, right? You hear about these people writing in diaries or doing journals or whatever, okay? You hear about songwriters doing spirit writing and where they're just caught up in the moment and they're writing, right? Anyways, this is spiritual writing. This is man being God, preserving the word, okay? So y'all need to understand that the Bible, these books, it's a collection of books. It's a collection of these men's writings, and they're being gathered together, and it's the history of earth, the history of this, the history of that, or whatever, and they bring these books together, and they form a book, 80 books, 66 books, it doesn't matter. It's all a collection of these certain books of the law being brought to us with the printing press. The printing press is the prince of the power of the air. Before man hand wrote the scripts, this is where you have the Spirit of God preserving the word. Because we as men, as gods, are writing and we're copying another man's text to preserve the word, okay? And as we're reading it, we may see like a little discrepancy, or we may interpret it something else or whatever. That's where you get the majority text or the discrepancies in the text, how it all matches. It matches, but at the same time it doesn't match because it tells the same feel or the same story, okay? And that's where we're losing it today, is the people, they're worshiping Baal, and this is part of that syllables and stuff, and they can't hear the parables and all these other things because they're worshiping the law. They're worshiping how, well, no, it says vain. It doesn't say vain, it says vain. And this is vain, okay? So they're getting caught up on all these laws of the English language, laws of this or whatever, and we know that the principality of the air operates in the rulers of darkness. They want to tell you what's good and what's bad. That's what the rulers of darkness are. And a lot of times our Bible tells us that God, that truth rests in the things that the world condemns. So a lot of this black market stuff, or a lot of the stuff the world tells you to stay away from or whatever, or the natural stuff or the herbs or whatever, that's where God's Spirit resides, okay? Or the things that give you freedom in this world. That's why they call alcohol spirits. That's why the law doesn't want you drinking alcohol in a sense or whatever, because it you can't go to work, okay? If you're a drunkard, you're not going to be able to go and work and pay your taxes and work the law and do all these other things, okay? So it wants you to have a little bit of control, or whatever, okay? So, and then also it tells you not to drink the drinks that move awry. Those are the bubbly drinks, because those cause health issues and whatever else. So a lot of these health issues people have are from the drinks they're drinking, because it's carbonation, and you're a living organism. You're a man made with the face of the ox, with oxygen. You need oxygen to live, and you breathe out carbon dioxide because it's part of the carbon dioxide, and you're drinking carbon dioxide. Okay, so you don't pump oxygen into your roots. If you have a hydroponic garden, you better make sure that oxygen is flowing in that water. Okay, same thing with us. So as man, we were writing these texts down. There wasn't a collection of books. Sometimes you had just one or two books. Sometimes you had a bunch of books, or it didn't matter, okay? Because you were supposed to test all the words, not just this collection of words that they're saying is the holy book or whatever, right? It's the holy, imperfect, holy Bible, all right? It's not the holy, perfect Bible. It's the holy, imperfect Bible, and you're buying the Bel worship and the Bell system, and you're buying what's right and the self-righteousness and all this other shit, okay? Jesus did not come for the right. He came for the sinner. He was born in a land, taken out, taught something completely different, came back to the land, told the people, hey, we don't have to do things like this anymore, dude. Right? This is why the kings wanted him killed, because he was coming in, changing, and putting a threat to that old culture that was already established. Okay? So the law of God, of the invisible God, is the 10 Commandments. The law of the carnal God, man, Satan, is that 600 plus Levitical laws. And that Satan goes back to that Genesis 1, sons of God who created the male and female after he, them. And that's the second born son of God. The firstborn son of God is Jesus. Okay? And as we are the temple and Jesus resides in the temple, then Jesus resides in us as the believer. Okay? But we need to understand that the Bible is there. It's written for man to help us understand the constructs of our reality and the constructs of good and bad and the constructs of God and the constructs of who we are, okay? Because there's some men that give their countenance over to the tan man, and there's some men who don't give their countenance over to the tan man, all right? And it's that simple, y'all. The preservation of the Bible is not what they teach. It's preserved by men as gods, and it's being selected, and those books are being selected. The 80 books or the 66 books are being selected and put into a book form. That's the Bell worship, and that's the Bell worship, the worship of the law, the worship of what's good and bad, and all this other stuff, and that's how good becomes bad and the bad becomes good, and the church age ends and the church gets persecuted, and all these things that's going on now, because the church is only there to make you worship Satan and to get you to bring in his father, Lucifer, to rule man. And Lucifer, Satan, are the ones who rule the beastmen. And Jesus is the one who rules the elect, the remnant, the believers, the watchmen of the day, or whatever, okay? Because there's two kingdoms being set up. The 7,000 of the remnant, 140,000, 44,000 of the tribes, plus the elect, the 420 elders, all these people, okay? Versus the beast man. So both kingdoms are being set up right now, and the Bell worship, the Bell worship, the good that shall become bad, the people that worship the Bell shall get their fulfillment of the law, and they shall go into hell on earth, okay? Because heaven and earth passes away, but hell remains, all right? And the heaven and earth are going to pass away because the heaven they teach is not the right heaven, and heaven and hell are on earth, okay? It is a mindset of man, and is a spiritual mindset. That's how you are born again in the spirit, to seek after the truth of this world, because you know that your Bible tells you that you live in the lie. The world is fallen state. The fallen. Who's in the fallen? The fall of Satan. You're falling right in line to Satan, to give your tenth, to give your tithe over to the man wearing the dog collar, wearing the beast suit, trying to control you, trying to tell you what's right or wrong. I'm sorry, Pastor, but that law that's in the Bible is an example of things. And that's why all the men of God in the Old Testament went against the law. That's why Jeremiah went against the law. That's why John went against the law. Jesus went against the law. Paul ended up going against the law. All these people went against the scribes and Pharisees. All these people went against the churches. All these people went against the kings. Do you not get it? It's the same thing over and over again. And that's why the church age is going to end, because the church is only needed there to brainwash people, to get you to worship this God, to give control over your earth, to take your own godhood. We are as gods. We don't need that government to rule us and to tell us what's right from wrong. Okay? It's all going to get weird here, but we'll figure it out.